Hi guys, we're doing College Algebra, Math 1513, Northern Oklahoma College, Chapter 2, and we're on Section 3. We're going to find the equation of the line if I give you 2 points on the line. So I'm not going to give you the slope, and I'm not going to give you the y-intercept, but I am going to give you 2 points that are on the line, and I want you to figure out how to write the equation in slope-intercept form. Alright, let's start with a nice, easy equation. I'm actually going to give you the answer first. So I'm talking about the line y equals negative 2/3 x plus 3. I'm just going to work an example backwards for you to show what we're doing. Y equals negative 2/3 x 3, that means, or plus 3. That means it crosses the y-axis at number 3 and goes down 2 steps and over 3. And then I'll do it again, down 2 steps and over 3. And there's that line right there. Crosses at 3 and goes down 2 over 3. Alright, now usually you need the slope and the y-intercept. I mean, you do need the slope and the y-intercept to write an equation, but what if I give you neither? What if I just give you maybe 2 points that are on the line? This is the point 3, 1, because you go 3 steps over and 1 step up. And this is the point 6, negative 1. Now, these 2 points are on the line. So how could I use those 2 points to figure out what my equation is? Alright, so all I know is that my line goes through these 2 points, 3, 1 and 6, negative 1. How do I write the equation? Well, remember, this is what we're going for. Y equals mx plus b. And what I need is a slope number and a y-intercept number. I need those 2 numbers to write the equation. Now, in the last example, you knew how to write the equation if you were given the slope, you borrowed an x and borrowed a y to figure out what b is. So let's kind of start with that same thing. Let's find our slope first, because once we have our slope, we know how to find b. Alright, so here's our strategy. We're going to find m first, that's step 1, then we'll find b, and finally we'll start all over and write the equation with our m and our b. Alright, let's find m. M is slope, and remember to find m, I always remember it's rise over run. And I always remember that rise rhymes with y. So here's a little short way of writing that. Delta y means the change in y. There's a new symbol for you, over the change in x. So the change in y over the change in x. How do you calculate change in y? You just subtract your y's. That tells you how much the y's changed. How do you calculate change in x? You just subtract your x's, and that tells you how much the x has changed. Alright, let's subtract our y's. We have 1 minus, careful here, negative 1. You're subtracting your y's. So I took my first y, 1, minus my second y, negative 1, over, let's see, 3 minus 6. 3 minus 6. 1 minus negative 1 is really 1 plus 1. So I have 2 over negative 3. And we don't like negatives in the denominator, so I'm just going to bump it up to the top. Our slope is negative 2/3. So we have our slope. Good. All right, let's find b. You guys remember to find b. We start with our slope-intercept form. Now, I just figured out that my m is negative 2/3, my slope. So I'm going to replace the m with negative 2/3. And I'm going to borrow an x and a y just for a minute so that I can figure out what b is. Now, which x and y you borrow doesn't matter. You can borrow this x and y or this x and y. Just pick the pair that looks easiest. I'm going to use 3 and 1 because I like positive numbers. It's easier to do the calculation. So I'm going to use 3 for my x and 1 for my y. So take out the y, put in a 1. Take out the x, remember to use parentheses. Put in a 3. And then we have our plus b on the end, which we're going to solve for. And now just do the math. 1 equals negative 2 plus b. So b, when we add 2 to both sides, b should be 3. Alright, so look what we have now. Step 1, we found our slope. Step 2, we found our b. And now all we do is just start all over and write our equation. So what we're going for is y equals, mx plus b. Just take out the m and take out the b, put in numbers, and you have your equation. So y equals, what was our slope again? Negative 2/3. The x comes down, put it about halfway up. and then plus the b, but actually the b is negative, so I'm going to write minus 2/3. Whoops. Hang on, I got confused. Our b is 3. Okay, let's back that up. The b is 3 and it's positive, so actually it's plus 3. My bad. So here's our equation. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 3. Remember, it crossed the y-axis at 3 and went down 2 steps and over 3. All right, now you guys try this one here. And the line is going through these 2 points. This one's going to be a little messier. We won't have whole numbers. We're going to have some fractions, but that's okay. So, first step. Remember, first step is figure out what your slope is. So, m equals, we're going to subtract our y's on top, minus negative 8 over our x's, 5 minus 2, and do the math. Negative 6 minus negative 8 is really negative 6 plus 8, so that's a 2 on top. And 5 minus 2 is 3, so we have a slope of 2/3. All right, so we know our line goes up 2 and over 3. We know this line is going uphill. Next, we figure out what our b is. So y equals mx plus b. You guys notice I start with this almost every time. We know that m is 2/3. So I'm going to take out the m and put in a 2/3. And now we just need to borrow an x and a y. I'm going to borrow this first x and y. So I'm going to take out my y and put in negative 6. And take out my x, use parentheses, put in my 5. And my plus b is out there on the end. That's what we're solving for. I want to figure out what b is. So let's do the math now. Negative 6 equals, let's see, 2/3 times 5 is 10/3 plus b. We're going to minus 10/3 from both sides. Now it's time to grab your calculator. If you do it by hand, we change 6 to negative 18 over 3. That's negative 6 minus 10 over 3. I'd rather you guys use your calculators, but here's how you do it by hand. And we get negative 28 over 3. Even if you do it by hand, make sure you check your answer on your calculator. So I got a slope of 2/3. There's our m. And a y-intercept of negative 28 over 3. They're fractions, but that's no big deal. So let's write our equation now. Start all over. And we want to replace the m and b with their numbers, and we have our equation. So y equals, our slope is 2/3. Put your x about halfway up. And then plus b, but b this time really is negative, so minus 28 over 3. And there's our equation. That line crosses the y-axis at negative 28 over 3. That's a little over negative 9. And then goes up 2 steps and over 3. That'd be really hard to graph, but that is our equation. It's not always pretty.